So, welcome to part 2. In this video right now, I'm going to show you how to make the bezel. And the bezel is very small. And I had to adjust it by taking out about 1.5 millimeter out of the bezel to make everything fit. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going back in time now, and I'm going to show you more detail on how to make the bezel, because that is when you lose that little piece of metal. You don't want to lose any silver. It's expensive stuff. Okay, I'm almost through it now. I would say a few more cuts and I got it off. All right, and I just dropped a piece, which I'll pick up. It's right here. And I have a scrap silver bin that I use over here. So I just dropped that in there. Now, here we go. I'm going to take it out. You see what I've cut. And I'm going to squeeze this in a little bit to start to make it fit the stone. This pliers is excellent for doing that, but the problem is it has a lot of teeth on it and it will mark the metal. And I'm going to squeeze this like that. And now I'm getting closer to the truth, closer to the side that I need it. I'm going to squeeze it this way. And you can see that I'm very close to the gemstone now. And now I'm going to put the gemstone in here to see how close I am. And it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. So when I squeeze it this way now, watch the squeeze. Like that, and I'm going to put a lot of force on it. Okay, so I know about where to cut that right now. I can see it. So I can put it back in my vise like that, and I see where to cut it, and I'm going to cut this because, and of course I have to cut straight and at the right angle. So I'm going to cut this piece off. So I just guessed at how much I need, and I have far more than I need. So, but the thing is that you're not really going to lose any metal because all this is going to get melted down. Any scrap gets melted down again. So nothing ever really gets lost. If this was gold, this piece here would be about $800. Did you hear what I said? $800. That's quite a lot of money. So, and I am almost through it. There we go. Okay, I'm through it now. If I lift this up, this piece will just break off. I'm fatiguing the metal back and forth like that, and I just broke it right off, okay? So if this was gold, that little piece would be $800. Isn't that amazing? And now my bezel I'm getting closer to the truth. I call it closer to the truth because we're getting close. So I can squeeze that now. Look at this. And I can bring that into line. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that bezel. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm almost there. And I want to squeeze that in more to make it a little bit more oval. There we go. I don't know if you could see the metal move, but look at that. And look at the stone now. And the stone should be able to sit on top of that. And it does very nicely. So I think it's still too big, and I might have to cut away one more time. So let's pick up the stone. And I think the camera can see this beautifully. And let's look at our size. We're almost there. Isn't that amazing? So you saw me make the metal, a very thick metal. That metal is as thick as this ring. Come in for a close-up here. This is the same metal as this metal. So in this ring that I'm making, the bezel is going to be quite thick. This is a little bit too big. So I want to make it another millimeter or two, maybe 2 millimeters shorter. So I'll take the stone out and put it over here. And I'm going to take another cut on this. So watch this cut. The vise is very important, you know. Most jewelers that I know of don't have a vise on their table, but I use it all the time, okay? So I'm going to take a little piece out of this to make this a little smaller. I'm taking, and if you ask me how much are you taking out, let's see how much I'm going to take out, okay? When this needle on this thing goes around, I set it for 0. So when it comes around like that to 1, 0, that's 1 millimeter. And this is 2 millimeters. So look at that space, it's 2 millimeters. I want to take about 1.5 millimeters out. So that's 1.5 millimeters. And all I have to do, and you have to get in close to watch this. So I'm lining this up on the cut, and I'm going to scratch this where I'm going to cut it. And the nice thing about this tool, it's made of very hard metal. So you can see where I'm going to cut now. All right? And I'm going to lay my saw right in there. I want to cut nice and straight. And I'm taking out a little chunk in there that's about 1.5 millimeter wide. I'm going to take it out. Now, the angle that I'm cutting at is very important. I'm not going to cut straight. I want to cut on a little bit of an angle so when I close this up, it will match. And the jewelry saw is wonderful because it by nature, the blade is very taut, so it cuts straight. So here I go, I'm cutting through now. Cuts really nice. And you can lubricate your saw. If you have some wax, you can lubricate the blade. It makes the cutting go a little easier. I've almost cut through the piece now. And there the piece is missing. Okay? Now I'll pick up that piece that's on the floor. But there you go. There's the piece, all right? And now I'm going to take it out of the vise. And this is the important part. The important part right now is I need my pliers back. And I'm going to grab both sides of this and look at this. Watch this. I'm going to push them in towards each other like that and close that space up. And then to keep it oval, I'm going to press this way on it. I'm going to do it with the outside part of the pliers, and that space will close. Well, here I go. I'm squeezing it now. Actually, I'm going to go to a bigger pliers, a really big parallel pliers, which has a lot of strength. See that? Can you see the whole pliers in there? And I'm going to squeeze that more oval and more closed. And I did a pretty good job. I'm going to try to close that gap. It takes a lot of strength in your hands, and that's good because you will develop your hands. I have very strong hands, very old hands now, but I used to shake hands with a football player and I could make the guy cry. I used to, in class, I would take the biggest kid in the class and the strongest kid in the class, and just to show people how my hands were strong, I would squeeze the guy's hands in my hands, because my hands are extremely strong. There we go. And you can take this from different angles and squeeze it. I made it too round just now, and that's how fast you can distort it. There we go, and I think I got it. So look at my bezel for this stone. Now I don't want the stone to fit in. I want it to sit on top. I want the stone to sit on top. So look at that. You want the stone to be about halfway over that edge so that you have some room to sink that stone into the bezel. We're going to go back. This is video 2, and in this video I'm going to set the stone. Here's the little stone. You won't be able to see it. It's in my hand. I'm going to set the stone in the ring, okay, like so. And I'm going to push down the edges over the stone. So, okay, so I'm going to set this stone today. It looks pretty good. I want to thin the sides out a little bit more. So I'm going to do that now. Take the stone out. Well, always remember where you put it. I have lost the stone for rings. I can't tell you how many times, and hours of trying to search my bench out with all the stuff on it, where the stone fell, what happened to it. So take good care of the stone. Don't forget the stone is over 10,000 baht. It's an expensive stone, okay? So I have to put my glasses on to look at this, and I might even put on a magnifier, because magnifier will help me see about how thin I'm making those sides. So the solution here is to take a small burr ball and go over this and make those sides very thin, because they need to bend down over the stone. But I need to thin down that outside a little bit, so I'm going to use the small burr and machine a little bit more, okay? You remember I keep my burrs organized. Here they are. And I'm going to take a small one. And a pear-shaped burr would be good for this too, okay? And then put this in the handpiece into dental machine. I've got a very large pear-shaped burr there. I'm going to open this and take that out and put in a ball-shaped burr. And I can become a dentist, right? I could be a dentist. Okay, now it's important that you have control over this, because it's so easy to ruin the wall, to let the burr climb over the wall and move and take a piece of the edge out. You got to be very careful that doesn't happen. So you need ultimate control. Remember, when you hold this machine, hold it very close to the tip like that, so you have control. I've seen students holding it like here and like this and like this, and it's just not, you will not have control. The tip can move and jump on you. And don't forget, this cutting edge is rather, it's a rather coarse cutting edge, but it's quite sharp. I can feel the sharpness with my finger. So be very careful it doesn't climb the wall and then destroy part of your edge. If that happens, you're going to have to make the whole setting lower. You're going to have to go down deeper and everything with the stone, and it's not going to look good. So be sure you hold your machine like that so that you have complete control over the machine, all right? Okay, another thing is holding the ring, and that might be good in a ring stick, but then you have to make sure it's on the ring stick very strong. So I'm going to put this on and pull down on it so I have control. This way I have something to hold the ring with my left hand. I'm holding with my left hand, and I'm going to have the machine in my right hand, and I can very carefully cut out this. Now, I know a lot of you don't like to wear a magnifier. You know why? Because you're young and you have fresh eyes. Oh, would I love to be young again and have this eyes that you have at 14 years old. I can remember in the wintertime in my house, when I looked outside and it was freezing outside. Jack Frost had painted a picture on my window of frost, and I looked out the other window in my room, and I had a beautiful Chinese cherry tree outside, and the blossoms looked like little carnations. They were pink carnations. And in the winter time, when it was so severely cold outside, actually it was below zero, this is in New Jersey, in the middle of the winter, I could see without glasses, I could see glass, not glass, but ice around every twig on that tree. I looked out, I often dream about this, and it was so cold outside, water vapor had gathered around the stems and branches of the tree, and there was a sheet of glass, a sheet of ice around every branch. I had vision that good. So I know what it's like to be your age, and you don't want to wear something that looks like this. You don't want to wear this because you think it makes you look goofy. You're so vain at this age. So I'm telling you, you have to wear this when you machine. So you'll put this on your head, make sure it's set right. There's a buckle in the back to set it for size of your head, okay? And some of you have little heads and some of you have big heads. So, and then you bring this down like that, and my vision is so increased, it's magnified the thing maybe 5 times the size. So I can work very critically, okay? I'm going to turn the machine on, and I'm going to start to machine around the outside. I want to weaken that wall, and I can see where it's thick. Be careful, because if it's not on the ring stick really strong, the ring it will move, and you don't want it to move when you do this. So I notice it's moving already, so I better hold it. And I wanna reduce the diameter of the metal near the edge. And you can go right through the metal if you do it too much, because this thing's pretty aggressive. So I want it to be about 1 millimeter, the metal, near the edge. So I'm taking my time to work. Hopefully I won't hop over the wall. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. So you're thinning down that metal, And you got to do it very lightly and very carefully. And this is why in this process so much skill is needed to do this properly. You can't be a neophyte with this. A neophyte means a new person at this. You're not going to get it the first time. So the control is what separates you from all your friends. And you want to make sure that you thin down the metal. Now I'm going to turn the ring around. It's to my advantage. And put it on again. And pull down on the ring a lot. Okay, and I want to do the other side now. Just take out a little bit of metal. Be careful you do not hop this edge. If the burr catches the edge, it'll climb the edge and cut a piece out of the edge, and that's like the worst thing that can happen to you. It's happened to me many times. Okay, but so far this looks great. I haven't damaged it at all. And I've taken out sufficient metal. Okay. Keep pushing the ring up on the ring stick so it doesn't slide on you by accident. So I've got a razor thin edge now, less than 1 millimeter actually, so I'm pretty satisfied that I'll be able to bend that edge over the stone. And let me tell you, that is the hardest part of the setting. I want to go down in there too, so the stone's sitting low. Okay. Looks pretty good. What I've done looks good. And it looks like I have a good shot at bending that edge. You can see the silver dust, because this thing really cuts. It's pretty aggressive. And you can see the silver dust. Okay. We can broaden the shot for you. And now I'm going to take this over to my setting block. Let me show you what a small setting block looks like. This is a small setting block. It's very heavy, and there's a special wrench for it, which I hope I have. I have to find it. And that's what it looks like. And you notice it spins. So the ring would go in here in these jaws, and then there's a special wrench for this, which I have in my hand. It's called an Allen wrench. Did you hear me? This is called an Allen wrench. And some people call it a hex wrench because it's got 6 sides. So you decide what you want to call it. Allen wrench is proper. That's the name of this tool. And it fits into this. And you can see that I can close this vise to hold my ring while I'm setting it. Here's the ring. And when you put it in the setting block, it looks like this. I'm going to open this setting block. It's not what you expect. The thread is opposite, so this is the way the ring will be set. Do you see that? And you can turn it around and work on it, pushing the edge over. I made these myself out of steel. I tried to find them in Thailand, and it's very hard to find a setting tool like this. This is called a burnishing tool. Here's another one. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen right over what I'm talking about right now so you can see it. This one's thinner. And I ground these down on a grinding machine and polished them out of steel. So they're both made out of steel. And this is what pushes that wall down on the stone. So if you can't see it while I'm doing it too clearly, That's what I'm doing. I'm pushing that edge over the stone while it's down. So I generally work opposite. So I'll take the stone here and put it in just so you can see it. And I'll get on this side and push that edge down. I must hold the stone so it doesn't move. And then I'll push the opposite side down. Then I'll go to this end and push down there a little bit, and go to this end and push down there. And that's how you do it. You go all around the stone. And what you're doing is you're stretching the metal up over the stone to lock the stone in place. Now when you do this, the stone is locked in place permanently. You can never get it out. A jeweler can get it out because he'll cut away very carefully the bezel, and maybe you want to put a bigger stone in, a slightly bigger stone, and he can change the stone for you. But it's locked for life. And this is the proper way, by burnishing with a burnishing tool, this is the proper way to put a stone in for life, in the professional way. And prong settings are good. They hold the stone in too. But this is the strongest setting because the metal is actually burnished all over the stone from all sides. It's pushed in and bent over the stone. And you got to do it very evenly, and you got to keep burnishing it. Now burnishing it makes it shiny. So as you burnish this over and you keep going over with this shiny steel horn, you've got to make sure that that horn is polished. So what I do before I start this process is I go over and I polish this on a polishing wheel. First I use the padded wheel because that's aggressive, you remember. That's Scotch-Brite pads, remember I showed you in the other video? Well, this needs to be polished very highly like a mirror. And I have two of these tools, and both of them have to be super shiny. And I'm going to turn on my machine. And the first thing I want to do is clean my burnishing tool before I start this process. So you just take the tool and hold it under here. You want to make sure there's no oxidation on it. And you want it to get it sort of polished, you know. But don't forget, this is Scotch-Brite. It's a very abrasive pad for cleaning pots. Okay, so this is not the finish that I want. I got to go to a buffing wheel. And the same with this one. I'm polishing it. And you always do this before you start because steel, if it stays in your workshop, it gets oxidized. And the tools need to be spanking clean when you start this process. So there I go. I've polished it a little bit. And now I'm going to stop the machine and take this wheel off. Turn the wheel towards me and take it off. And here's a soft buffing wheel. And I'm going to have to use polish on it. The polish that polishes silver will polish steel too, but steel's a lot harder, so it'll be a bit longer to do. So I turn my machine on. It's important that that shaft looks straight, this tapered shaft. If you see that it's not, then you have to adjust. There are screws over on here. You have to adjust these screws, okay? So make sure it looks straight and it's running, and we call this true. It's running true. It's not eccentric. It's true, all right? Now you hold your wheel like that, and you approach the tapered shaft, and there's a screw on here that will grab it immediately, like that. And I've just put the wheel on. Now I'm going to take some polish. I like to use the brown, green, I'm colorblind, and put it on like that. And I'm going to turn the machine on. Well, I don't want to breathe this in, but just polish your burnishing tool, the whole thing, and make it nice and polished. And you see that looks great. You see it did make an effect on it. Don't start this process without cleaning and polishing your burnishing tool. I hope you'll say that word, burnishing tool. Okay, there it is. Look at how nice that looks, all right? And now I'm going to come over to the other one and polish it. And try to get it really nice and polished. There's a hook in it, so I want to go inside that hook and all around the tool and really polish it. Your tools should be kept in good condition. Alright, so this is very important that your tools look polished. This is my setting area here. You notice I have a little light here. And I've got to wear these magnifiers so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, I even have a setting microscope here. This is a setting microscope for setting very small stones. And you can't set stones without having Superman vision. So I know a lot of you feel, oh, I can see, I don't need glasses. It's not good enough for you. You need to have, first of all, you need to have proper light, and you need a setting ball. Now this is a big setting ball, okay? And it uses the same wrench size as the other setting ball. But I have a wrench right here. I'm going to show it to you. Here's the wrench for it, and that would go in here, see, in this hexagon slot, and I can close this and open it. I'm going to centralize the ring in here. I got to open the jaws very slightly. It's not intuitive because the threading is opposite. There we go. And you notice the bezel sits right down on here, and that's important. You can't set a ring like this. I've seen students try to do that. They bent the whole ring, so they bent the shank because this takes so much pressure. So sit the ring all the way down in the setting ball as far as it'll go so it feels like it's bottomed, and then tighten this. You can get more leverage for tightening by using the small side of the hex wrench. So stick that in like so and tighten down, okay? Now this is nice because you can turn this any way when you're working on it, all right? The idea is to keep the stone centralized. When you push in the first time, the stone's going to shift over to the side. So you got to do this with increments, very small increments, all right? I'm going to put my lens on, and I'm going to start on the ends and start pushing this, bending this in. And then I want to turn it around to the very opposite side with my horn. You see, I've already pushed that down, and now I go to the other side. You got to work in opposites, and make sure the table of the stone is down, and then push this down. And you have to use you have to have strong hands. There's no question about it for this kind of work. It's not easy. And then you noticed I just pulled the stone right out. So make sure the stone is down. And now I'm going to go around the sides. Again, holding the stone down. And I've stone's still coming out, it's sticking to my finger. So this is a pretty big setting, so I'm hoping that I can have the power. And that's what burnishing is. I'm not going to keep the camera on because it'll make the video too long. But so here we are. This morning I did this in stages, and I am pushing in the bezel on the stone. And I'm using this polished horn, which is called a burnishing tool. And this, if you ask me, is this easy? It's no, this is the most difficult part. At some point the stone will be locked in, but it's going to take a lot of time. So for the sake of time, I'm going to stop the video and pick it up in a few minutes after I've got the stone locked, okay? You can stop.